Something else we're watching right now is defense. Once relegated to the shadows of Silicon Valley, defense tech is going mainstream. And with many, growing number of entrepreneurs and investors from the sector working with the incoming Trump administration, the momentum is poised to continue. So it's a stark shift from just 6 years ago when Google employees protested U.S. military work and defense companies were classified by funds as quote-unquote sin stocks. Katherine Boyle was early to this investing trend, a general partner at A16Z's. She co-founded the venture firm's American Dynamism practice in January of 2020. And she says this has been a long time coming.
So 10 years ago, former Secretary of Defense Ash Carter put out the call with Defense Innovation Unit saying we have to bring Washington to Silicon Valley. And I think planting that flag from the DoD was really important because it showed that there was a seriousness of there are people inside the department that want to see change. But there's a lot of things that I think happened. It was the success of SpaceX, the success of Palantir. I always joke people looked back at SpaceX in 2019 when they were talking about Starlink, and investors said, how is that ever going to work? And now look at SpaceX today. So I think there's a lot of things on the success side of the companies that were being built, the enthusiasm from the DoD. Ukraine changed everything because when I think these young engineers watched a real land war happening in Europe, they looked and said, okay, we actually need to build defense technology. This is real now. It's not just theoretical. It's something we actually have to focus on. And so when you put all that together, there was just this explosion of new founders, new finance, people putting real capital behind these businesses, and then success stories.
So Boyle, who joined me exclusively from the Reagan National Defense Forum last weekend, notes some of the hottest defense startups, Anduril Industries, Shield AI, which are both Andreessen Horowitz investments, they're nearly a decade old. And they, plus Palantir, have already helped to send a new generation of entrepreneurs into the business world with startups like Apex Space, which makes satellite buses, and Saronic, which makes unmanned ships for the Navy, also receiving A16Z funding. Well, Boyle thinks private markets, like the public ones post-election, are also poised to see the unleashing of animal spirits.
I actually think in Q3, Q4 of this year, private markets were pulling a little bit back. At least that's what we were seeing. I think people were sort of wait and see. Let's see what happens. And then, as you said, there is sort of this euphoria in the public markets and in the crypto markets. We've seen major rallies, and I think you're going to see that in Q1 of this upcoming year. You're going to see a lot of venture dollars going into categories that otherwise people would have said, maybe there's too much regulation, too much uncertainty. I think you're going to see private capital come roaring back to private markets.
And there are a number of sectors. Energy is another one to watch, for example. But it all comes as SpaceX is now valued at $350 billion based on a secondary share sale, which puts its valuation higher than any defense contractor and among the top 25 in the S&P 500 by market cap.